One of the most important and perhaps underappreciated aspects of our society here in the United States is the ability that our citizens have to vote and have their voice heard by the government. Voting is part of the foundation of this country, and it's not too recent of an argument as to whether voting is a right or a privilege for the citizens. Unfortunately, there's a very large number of citizens that don't have the right to vote, and that's what I would like to talk about today, is the disenfranchised felons that are here in the country. Disenfranchisement is basically what happens when someone's convicted of a felony and their right to vote is taken away. Now, this varies from state to state because it's not so much of a federal issue as it is states' rights. And it's kind of all over the board as to how each state approaches it. There's 2 states that don't disenfranchise their felons at all. So if you're convicted of a felony in these states, you're able to vote even during your incarceration. However, the majority of the states not only disenfranchise their felons, so they cannot vote in prison, but they do not regain the right to vote once they've been released. This, to me, seems to be an unfair practice because once an incarcerated individual is released, their sentence has been served. They've paid for the crime they've done, they've righted their wrongs, and I believe that they should be reinstated with full citizenship rights or privileges regardless of, I guess, their crime. And what I mean by that is not all states qualify the same crimes to the same degree as others. For example, in Florida, a DUI is considered a felony, but in Montana, you have to get 4 DUIs within a 10-year period before it becomes a felony instead of like a misdemeanor. So that means that there's disenfranchised individuals throughout the country for different degrees of crimes, both violent and nonviolent. A lot of states have been moving away from disenfranchising felons, or at least becoming more relaxed on the disenfranchisement penalties. A great example of this is Florida, that up until about a year ago, any felony conviction resulted in a lifelong voting ban. The disenfranchisement numbers are actually fairly significant, and it raises some concerns because these numbers have been steadily rising for over 40 years now. As of the 2016 elections, there were over 6 million disenfranchised individuals in the United States, which includes 33% of African American men. This becomes an even larger issue when states like Florida have between 10 and 11% of their state's population that have a lifelong voting ban due to felony convictions. The Constitution gives us all the right to life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness. And I think that it's correct when it says that these are inalienable rights. I think that as a citizen, it is a right and a privilege to be able to vote. And I agree that, like, when someone makes a mistake, there should definitely be consequences. But how long should we have to pay for, like, the sins we've committed? Sorry. I think that the trend that we've been seeing on easing up in disfranchisement of felons is an important one, but definitely one that still needs improvement. There's only 14 states that don't disenfranchise after an individual has served their prison term. And I think that those states have the right idea, and I think it's important to pay attention to what our state's laws are and kind of lobby to move in that direction as well. I don't know about you, but mistakes I've made, I would not want to be held accountable for the rest of my life, especially when you do consider states, again, like Florida, where their felonies are more prevalent. Like, they have different infractions that other states wouldn't consider as severe. So you have states like Montana where it's more difficult to become disenfranchised, whereas in Florida, some of the crimes that will take away your right to vote indefinitely now instead of lifelong um, include not having vehicle insurance, a DUI, a minor in possession, and these are crimes that aren't punished as strictly in other areas of the United States. So I think we should be more conscientious of who's able to vote, what their rights are, giving people back some of their rights once they've paid for the crimes they've committed, um, and just in general learning to be more forgiving and hopefully taking our country back one vote at a time.